Welcome to BSc Statistics students. In this lesson, I explain the definition of index numbers and also various steps involved in the construction of index number. First of all, you see what is the introduction and why we use the index number, this concept. So, if you refer to improve the economic conditions, the quality and the quantity of the productivity, the standards of living of a country, and like this, the many other reasons, it is very essential to study the changes of several economic and economic related variables like agricultural production, industrial production, prices of various commodities, cost of living, imports, exports, sales and the sales of various commodities, national income, etc. Many other variables, many number of economic variables or economic related variables. Study the changes. What are the changes of these variables in these variables which are required? What are the changes took place? What are the changes are taken place in this in these studies? That is very important. To study these, a simple and easily calculated statistical device is needed to study the relative changes of these kind of economic variables. So that such statistical device is known as index number. The index number is such statistical measure which clearly indicates the changes in the variables. What are the changes in the variables? That is very important. To study the changes in these variables, economic related variables, which helps in the formulation, planning and execution of decision variables and various management and business and economic concern problems. So index number study the economic behavior of the variables. Hence they are known as economic barometers. Economic barometers. Index numbers are also known as economic barometers. Why? Because the reason that the changes which reflects the changes, these index numbers reflects the changes in the variables, economic variables. Hence it is called which are called economic barometers. Right. You see what is the definition of index number? The index numbers are statistical devices to measure the relative change in the level of phenomena with respect to time or geographical region or any other characteristics. With respect to time, maybe some particular time period from last year to this year, what are the changes in the economic variables? Geographical region, from one place to another place, from one country to another country, what are the changes of some particular economic variables? Regarding any other characteristics in the connection with any other characteristic, some particular time period, some particular geographical location, due to some particular income levels, and due to some particular industrial relations, due to many other reasons, what are the changes of the relative changes in a particular level of phenomena in the economic variables which are indicated by the index numbers. The index numbers are nothing but a statistical device to measure the relative changes. Right? So index numbers which are calculated based on some standard period called base period and calculated for a given time period called current period. So two periods are required. Based on one particular period, it is going to be studied, the base, that is called base period. Based on some particular another period for a given time period is going to be studied, it is called current period. Right. So these are some definitions of index number. Now you see the examples. Index numbers are constructed for the prices of commodity, indicates the changes of the price in the given time period compared with some standard period. These are some particular examples. Now you see the cost of living index numbers of low income group people of a locality, and which gives an idea about living standards of the period in a particular period of that particular group of people, low income group people. And similarly, the index numbers are constructed for the industrial production in a certain period shows an indication of growth of production. So these are various number of examples, there are many number of examples which we can study, right? And now, if we consider the another important aspect of this particular index numbers is various problems involved in the construction of index numbers. Various problems involved in the construction of index numbers. That is, now the another important problem is construction of index number. And what are the problems of construction of index number? That is our important topic. Now here it is put, the heading is various problems involved in the construction of an index number. How the index numbers are constructed, what are the basic problems, and what are the important steps which are going to be constructed. You see, the first point, these are the points which are to be kept in mind to construct a particular index number. The very crucial points, whenever if you want to construct an index number, these points are kept in our mind, and so that you can consider these are some guidelines which are involved in the construction of any index number. You see here, the first one, purpose of an index number. The first step is in the construction of index number is to decide its purpose. The purpose of index number decides the remaining involved problems such as selection of commodities, selection of relevant data of prices, etc. That is, for example, I give you an example for this. If you want to construct an index number for the purpose of studying the steel production of steel, then automatically commodities will be decided. You see here the first one, selection of commodities will be decided, which are nothing but the items of steel. Selection of relevant data, what are the prices of those commodities, etc., which are all remaining latter problems are going to be easily resolved or automatically settled. So first of all, our objective is the first step is nothing but what are the purposes and what is the main purpose of constructing the index number. We have to first of all decide, and which settles many problems. The second one, come to the second one, selection of commodities. Selection of commodities. You see, in this particular point, the next step is to select the commodities which are relevant to the index number. After deciding the purpose, you have to see and select what are the commodities are required to consider in that particular studying the index number and studying that particular statistical study of this particular construction of index number. That is, for example, if the index number is constructed to measure the changes in the production of electrical goods, then we have to select the items like electrical fans, electrical bulbs, tube lights, etc. One more example, if the index number is to measure the cost of living of a particular locality of low income group, then we have to select the commodities which are consumed by the low income group people, like rice, cereals, pulses, oil, soaps, sugar, cycle, steel items, milk products, etc. But should not consider the items like air conditions, cars, luxury items, etc. Because we are intended to construct the cost of living index number for low income group people. So selection of commodities are to be considered or to be taken for by keeping in view of the purpose of index number. After selecting the purpose of index number, what commodities are going to be selected based on the objectives of the index number, construction of index number. And we should be very particular about which commodities they are using, that of a particular based on some particular statistical study, and based on the purpose of the index number. If the purpose is belonging to the some low income group people, then we should not select the items which are used by high income group people, like air conditions, cars, luxury items, etc. So selection of commodities is the next important part of considering the index numbers. Construction of the index numbers. Next one, the data for index numbers. What is that? What is meant by data? Data means simply the prices and quantities. The prices and quantities of the respective selected commodities for different time periods at the same or various places is precisely known as the data for index numbers. Or simply to specify the prices and quantities of the selected commodities. Commodities are selected already, will be selected in the second step. So therefore, after selecting the commodities, we have to get the data for index numbers, which will be considered, which will be the data for index number, which are to be collected from the reliable sources. That's very important. Reliable sources like official publications, from the official publications, from the standard journals or periodicals, special reports, from the super bazaars, from fair price shops or departmental stores, etc. We should collect the prices and quantities, respective prices, which are to be collected from the original sources, various reliable sources. That is very important of collecting the data for index numbers. That is the third point. And the fourth point is selection of base period. This is also one of the very, very important point. Selection of base period. Already we have pointed out that, I have explained that there are two particular time periods are used in the construction of index number. One, in which time period index number is going to be intended to calculate. Second one, what is the base period of that particular calculation of index number? Based on which time period? For example, we want to calculate index numbers for 2022, the year. We have to select one such base period as, for example, 2017 or 2018. The prices of 2018 we have to consider. For example, we have to consider the base period. In the base period as 2000, for the base period of 2018, and the index numbers are going to be constructed for the year 2022. That is for the same prices, etc. Now you see here, based on the particular time period with which the comparisons of relative changes are made is referred as base period. The comparisons are going to be made with particular reference period, that is called base period. Index number for base period is always to be considered as 100. These are the two particular points we have to keep in our mind to select the base period. First one, the base period must be a normal period. There should not be any kind of abnormalities in the base period. You see here, that is, it should be free from all economic depressions. This means the base period should not be considered from a period which is affected by floods or wars, famines, earthquakes, etc. That is, prices of a particular year which earthquake took place, we should not consider. Which war took place, we should not consider. Which flood took place, we should not consider that particular period as a base period. If the base period is taken from the economic depression, that is all the things, depression, then the prices of commodities in these periods will be usually very high or very low due to abnormality, and that comparisons will be meaningful. So therefore, base period must be a normal period. Come to the second point. The base period should not be too distant from the current period. For example, If we want to calculate index number, construct the index number for the year 2022, we should not consider the base period as 2000 or 1998 because it is too distant from the current period. 20 years back time period we are considering. That is obviously it is too distant from the current period. Therefore, we should not consider the base period as too distant from the current period. That is very, very important because we want to take some policy decisions in a particular business or in a particular activity, economic activity. Therefore, it is more relevant to consider the base period. That is to give the valid conclusions, interpretations, policy decisions are to be considered, made. That is the reason why we should have to make meaningful conclusions and to make relevant comparisons. The base period must be very near to the current period. It should not be too distant from the current period. That is the selection of the fourth point, selection of base period. Come to the fifth point. Selection of suitable average. You see here, index numbers are calculated by using some statistical averages. A suitable statistical average is going to be used to find the index number. Since it reflects the changes in the level of phenomena, because of the reason that the main reason is it should reflect the changes. That is the reason why we have to use an appropriate statistical average. What are the averages generally we use? We use arithmetic mean, geometric mean and median. Among which geometric mean is the suitable measure because geometric mean is used in the calculation of ratios to represent changes because ratios are some particular representation to identify the changes in the phenomena, in the variable. And also some of the very important purposes why we are considering geometric mean. That is why geometric mean is most preferable than the other. Geometric mean is not affected by extreme observations. The average based on geometric mean are reversible. That is another reason. The ratios not affected by extreme observations which are reversible. Therefore, geometric mean is one such suitable measure of calculating the index numbers, constructing the index numbers. Next point, sixth point, selection of appropriate weights. The another important point is all the commodities selected for index numbers may not have an equal importance. That is also one of the very, very important point. Hence, by considering the relevant importance of commodities, approximate weights are to be assigned. For example, in the calculation of cost of living index numbers, the commodities are items like wheat, rice, sugar, oil, clothes, gas, house rent, etc. may not have an equal importance, obviously. Usually, wheat, rice, house rent, etc. have more important than other commodities. Usually, we purchase wheat, rice and house rent. That is, wheat and rice are more and house rent will be more, rather than the remaining commodities like sugar, pulses, oil, etc. Usually we spend less for those commodities and we spend more on wheat, rice, and etc. So appropriate weightage is going to be specified, given to those commodities which are higher importance. So that is the reason why we have two kinds of index numbers, unweighted and weighted index numbers. Okay, the next thing is selection of a suitable formula. The various formula are available for the construction of index numbers. The selection of suitable formula depends on the purpose of index numbers and the selection of prices and quantities of selected commodities. Based on this, a suitable formula is going to be selected. If you want to construct index numbers for prices, we consider in one fashion. If you want to construct index numbers to know the changes in the quantities, we construct another kind of index number. That depends on the formula. So in such a fashion, the suitable formula is going to be selected for the construction of the index number. So these are the 7 points of constructing the various problems involved in the construction of index number, of constructing the index number. Hope you understand. We know many number of formulas: Lashpier, Pashi, Fisher, Drawbridge-Bowley, Marshall-Edgeworth, etc. Many number of formulas, among which Fisher formula is more important, and Fisher formula is one of the most suitable and very important measure, very important formula of calculating the index numbers. Thank you so much.